So thanks for joining me here today. I know that those that have been in the Italian presentation probably were able to learn about a market that's been regulated for a while now, and we have some kind of knowledge and understanding of how things are already happening over there. It's not so much the case of the situation of gaming in general and poker more specifically in France. It is really I would say a weird process that we just witnessed in the past few months. I mean, there have been talks about regulating France for about a couple of years now already, but there was some sense of urgency of rushing with things, and we'll talk about why it happened. But as a result, we're seeing a law that has been promulgated about a couple of weeks ago and should be implemented a couple of weeks from now, but there are still quite a lot of things that are unknown. So bear with me if some of the things that I will say here may sound a bit vague. I will try to share as much information as I can without getting too much into a whole deep analysis of the regulation itself, of the law itself, because a lot of it is still written but unknown. And I'll get to that in a second. So just to explain a little bit about myself, as James presented, I'm the Affiliate Business Development Manager for Everest affiliates. Our brand, Everest Poker, was one of the first ones to enter the French market and Europe in general. And obviously our approach is focusing on those markets, more specifically trying to work within regulated markets. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's jump right into the essence of it. What are the objectives of the new law? Officially, if you read the law, and the law is kind of long and very French, but if you read the law, you'll see that the idea is to protect the public from addiction and underage gambling, monitoring the offer and practice of online gambling, and obviously controlling money laundering and all the things that come with that. Between the lines, that we'll read it and we'll see, we'll look a bit at the development, and this is my personal interpretation, but this is nothing crazy here. Protecting the monopolies, we have PMU and Française des Jeux, which are the known sports betting and horse racing monopolies in France. Obviously, taxing the gaming activity, this is a huge growing opportunity for the French authorities to actually collect taxes. But also we think that opening the market in a way will allow those two monopolies to start getting a share of the poker market, which is growing quite rapidly and tremendously in France. So again, nothing groundbreaking here in terms of why it's happening and how it's happening. A bit about the regulation itself. It's pretty straightforward in the process if we look at it. Operators are required to obtain and maintain a separate license for 3 different verticals. So you can apply for all 3 of them, you can apply for just one of them, and each operator or each company that's interested to take part in this process can do whichever they find right for them. One license is for circle games. That's kind of more of a generic name. The main thing is poker, but it could be also other sorts of what we call drum games, circle games that are between multiple players. Obviously, sports betting and horse racing are the other verticals that we're going to see being licensed and regulated. Only those that are approved and obtain an actual license can offer gaming to French residents. Now, need to keep in mind, this is something a bit tricky. In the internet world, we used to work by language. We don't so much work by just a country. They're not real borders when you go online. And now we are fencing just the French residents. Obviously, it comes with all the French departments, but everything that is considered France is part of this law. And only those that can prove that they are French residents can actually take part in gaming in France. The next point is something interesting that the law defined what really is covered here. So I will read it because it's important to understand it. The law covers shared games in which players can apply skill and strategy after the intervention of chance. So the starting point is chance. We're not in a conversation about whether it's skill or chance and all those things that we saw poker going in that direction in different countries when, especially in the legal front. Here, the understanding, at least the definition, is that it starts with chance, right? You've been dealt cards. What you do with that afterwards, how you apply your skills, how you apply your strategy, and how you compete against others that are faced with the same chance, that's basically everything that is covered by the law. As part of that, obviously the law does not include lotteries, casino, games, spreads betting, and all that stuff. Some of those, obviously the lotteries and all that are regulated through other things, but casino, for example, is definitely not part of this regulation. I'm talking about online casino. There's no mention of it, but from reading the law and analyzing it, you can understand that casino is a big no-no. I think that best to understand the law is really to understand what's the spirit of it. We're talking about a law that is basically in theory. Why it's in theory? Well, just last week they started accepting applications for licenses. We don't really know what's going to be done, how it will be enforced, what's allowed, what's not really allowed. And since the authority, and I'll speak about it in a second, but the authority that actually regulates the market hasn't been commissioned up until not long ago, there was not really anyone to talk to. There were some questions and things like that, but it was not a very open conversation that we can say. So let's understand the spirit of the law. Obviously, it's creating a closed and controlled gaming environment, and that will be done through licensing. So by licensing, the government can say, okay, we want this person or this operator to be part of the game, and this one doesn't meet our standards and is not allowed to play in this big game. So that's licensing. Isolation. Players, so basically things are now allowed, they're legal, but are only allowed and can only be offered to French residents. So that's a major criteria that you need to meet. And the idea is really to obviously protect the citizens, but still maintain control of the situation. Monitoring. So monitoring is really, the main thing about monitoring is a frontal server that every operator is required to establish in France. So whatever you license in Malta or in Kanawaki and all those other places, doesn't matter anymore. If you want to have your French license, you need to put a French operations in place, have your frontal server. Any interaction between players and operators needs to go through this. I'm talking obviously financial interactions, gaming interactions, and the French authorities will have access to that. They can monitor all of those things. And fourth is definitely the exclusion of games of chance, namely casino, as we said. Again, one can argue that they really want to protect the people from gambling and there's more risk involved. Another can say that, okay, there's a very well-established land-based casino operations in France. They didn't want to touch that for now. Who knows?